but there's a tough stretch we went over for all the next month, and I think this is where we're really going to see where this team stands as far as future playoff contention.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 2 On, 2 Out, a Phillies podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Bob. Bob, how the heck are you today?
Like our Phillies, I'm average.
Yeah, that's a good point. Since the last time we spoke, the Phillies went 3-3, 500 in these two road series, which is average. But you know what? For the Phillies, that is a major improvement on the road, compared to what we've seen in the last few years. We've talked about it before multiple times in our discussions. They don't play well on the road, so I think we both agreed last week that to see them take 3 out of 6 in these first two series would be a win in our books. It kind of stings a little bit with the way today's game went. You had a chance to pull out a sweep, but yeah, 3-3 I'll take. And if we rewind back to last Friday night, things got rolling and looking like it may be the start of a even better trip. Phillies routed the Braves, a 12-2 victory in that Friday night game. I believe the first completely sold out Major League Baseball game since the 2019 World Series. So.
Really?
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Seeing the crowd back like that, and I think the Phillies just announced that was it June 12th when the Yankees are in town. They're going to be opening up to full capacity as well. So we're getting back to some normalcy here. This game was not exactly normal. In fact, this whole series was not very normal. But starting in this first one, the Phillies had a 6-run first inning against Charlie Morton and the Braves. Alec Boehm had an RBI single. Gene Segura returns to the lineup with a 2 RBI single of his for himself, and then Odubel Herrera, a 3-run home run to cap off that 6-run first inning. Charlie Morton would leave after recording just 2 outs, so really off to a great start for the Phillies in that one. In addition to Segura returning to the lineup, we saw Bryce Harper come back from his wrist inflammation. The rest of that game, Andrew McCutchen would collect a couple of RBIs. Alec Boehm would end the day with 2, and JT Realmuto would hit a 2-run home run in the 8th inning. Zach Eflin goes 6 2/3, 99 pitches, and I remember when he got pulled, it was a little odd to see Girardi take him out so quickly. You thought for sure he could get through 7 there. Wasn't really laboring. The Braves would only get 2 runs that whole game, both coming off of Eflin. He had 8 strikeouts, but Girardi decides to go to the bullpen. He brings out Connor Brogdon to get the last out of the inning. And David Hale throws 2 innings to close things out. The two of them combined for no hits, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. So a good opening for a series. I don't think you can ask for much more than a 10-run win. What were you thinking after that first game, Bob?
I was thinking this could be a start of a very good road trip. Coming into the series, I know Freeman was on just a horrible cold streak.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it would be a pretty good time to take advantage of that. But alas, the next 2 games did not go our way.
No. And so Saturday's game, another night game down in Atlanta. Phillies end up losing this one 8-7, and that score I don't think does justice to what went on here. So we jump into the first inning. Gene Segura hits a solo home run, and that was a line drive that cleared the wall by about a foot down in left field. It was nice to see, but it was a cheapie for sure. Alec Boehm would collect an RBI in the first inning as well. So once again, Phillies get off to an early lead. They led it 2-0 after the first. And then Andrew McCutchen would collect an RBI single in the second inning. So then the Phillies are up 3-0. with Vince Velasquez on the mound, you felt pretty good. Velasquez has been on a good streak of pitching, and um, 3 runs at least for the start of a game, felt pretty good. You figured you'd pick up a couple more as the game went on. Velasquez would go 5 1/3 innings, allowed just 1 earned run with 3 walks and 6 strikeouts. So we can actually fast forward to the bottom of the ninth. Phillies had a 3-1 lead. They did not score anymore, like you kind of would hope a team would after taking an early lead like that.
Mm-hmm.
We see Hector Neris come in, try to get the save with a 2-run lead, and he does get the first 2 batters to go down pretty easily. Then he gives up a two-out walk, and I think everyone in that stadium knew who was coming up next. Kung Fu Panda, Pablo Sandoval, steps up, and like everyone predicted, he crushes a 2-run home run into right center field, absolutely obliterated, and it tied the game up. Hector remained in the game, would give up another walk, but then collected the final out to send this into extra innings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now,
so go ahead.
no, I was watching this. I watched all the games except for today because I was at work. But I felt that I don't know if you felt the same way that Hector could have been more aggressive in that bottom of the ninth, especially before Sandoval got to the plate. He loses. Was it
Adrianza.
Adrianza. I always
Yeah.
can't pronounce his name. I felt he was a little. I don't know if it was Neris or if it was JT's call or came from the bench, but I felt like he could have challenged him a bit more in that bat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I don't know how you felt about the way the inning went before Pablo came up to the plate.
Well, especially knowing that, like I said, you had the pitcher. I believe it was the pitcher spot up next. Everyone in that stadium and watching the game knew Pablo was going to be up next. You have a guy up there not hitting well. Challenge him. Who cares? Even if he hits a home run, who cares? You still have the lead, and then you go after Pablo as however you're going to go after him. But this guy at the plate, for all intents and purposes, doesn't matter. Again, he scores, you still have the lead, you can still win the game. So I agree. A relatively, I don't want to call a weak hitter, but not a guy not hitting his best, and give him something to hit. Let him put it in play. Let your defense handle it behind you, and then you win.
Yeah, and then another question is, would you have, considering we talked about Freeman came into the series with just a bad cold streak. He had a decent game the day before, but would you have considered just trying to go after Freeman and skipping over Pablo?
I get it, but track record wise, Freeman, coming off his MVP season, yes, going a cold streak, but he just has a more recent track record of performing well. Whereas, yes, Pablo, late inning, he's becoming essentially a Matt Stairs guy, where he comes in, late inning and pops a home run and gets you either tied or into the lead. And but I feel
just a correction. I said Freeman had a good game. It was the Sunday game where he ended his hitless streak.
Right. And either way, just Freeman again coming off of every season he has a great season. Every season he competes for the MVP. He finally won it last year, albeit in a shortened season. But yeah, I would much rather see Neris face Pablo, and I'm glad you brought up questioning the pitch calls, because then in the Sandoval at bat, I think the ball that he hit for a home run was a meatball fastball, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Hector's bread and butter is that disgusting splitter. So it seemed to be a poor call and poor execution. I think the blame probably could go on Hector, could go on JT, and may even go to the bench. You're right. We not going to know who made that call, but
yeah, it's funny. I thought the pitch call should have been reversed. I thought it should have been more fastballs to Adrianza and more splitters to Pablo.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know if they were trying to catch Adrianza off guard or what was going on there, but yeah, I think I think the real culprit was not being more aggressive with Adrianza and trying to get him out. again, because we all knew Paulo was coming out and what he was capable of.
But we had a chance in extra innings, and Andrew, what tell me how that went?
Yeah, well, so top of the 10th, Phillies failed to score that runner from second, the Manfred runner, if you want to call him that, with a just ugly rule of starting the runner at second in extra innings. So we go into the bottom of the 10th. First batter grounds out to second base. We have, I believe it was Coonrod in the game at this point. So a ground out, but it gets the runner over to third. So then we see 2 intentional walks to load the bases, and then we get the infamous 5-man infield. Bryce Harper comes in and collects the infielder's glove, and we have 5 guys on the infield looking to keep the ball from hitting the outfield and getting the play at the plate. And that's exactly what happens. We get a ground out to third base, throw home, and stop the run from scoring. So then with 2 outs, go back to the conventional defense, and we get a strikeout to end it. So then we head to the 11th inning. In the 11th, Mr. Nick Maton comes into the game and collects himself an RBI double. So the Phillies have, I believe at that point, it's a 4-3 lead going into the bottom of the 11th. And immediately, the first play in the 11th was Didi Gregorius committing an error on his throw to first. And the game is tied back up at 4. Braves can't score again. So, even with the runner at second rule, we're now going to the 12th inning. The Phillies end up getting the bases loaded, and Bryce Harper would chop the ball back to Webb. I can't remember his first name at this point, but the Brave pitcher Webb goes to throw home, and it gets past the catcher. And when he does it, the pitcher does not cover home plate. So not only does the runner from third scored, but the runner from second scored as well because there was no one to cover home plate. So on that error, the Phillies managed to score 2. JT Realmuto comes up and hits an RBI single. Phillies are up 3, and they win the game. Except in the bottom of the 12th, we see Eniel De Los Santos come in, and he doesn't record an out. He allows a walk, a single, a double, a sacrifice bunt, and I think either at that point of the bunt or perhaps before it, Matt Moore comes to the game and gives up an RBI single, and the Braves win, not recording it out in the bottom of the 12th, scoring 4 runs. Ugly game, and it really, you just have those games where it gets to that point and it's like, losing this hurts worse than a normal loss, and that one stung.
Yeah, and there was actually a point earlier in the game that I was probably the most bad. It was the top of the 5th. Kutch had singled, Segura had singled, and Kutch had made it to third on Segura's single. And then the next batter up was Bryce Harper on a first pitch low and outside, way out of the zone changeup. He runs into a double play, and then JT strikes out the next at bat. I just thought that was a horrible at bat by Bryce, just to take the first pitch, which was a really bad changeup that you can't do anything with, and just roll it over into a ground ball double play. That made me really mad.
Yeah, and there's been a few times, particularly in the last couple of series, we talked before about how hot Bryce is sort of this season. He's still playing well. I mean, his numbers haven't fallen off completely. He's still at the top of a lot of, or near the top in a lot of categories. But there seems to have been a lot of those clutch situations where he hasn't been as clutch as he's known to be and can be. Some double play balls, some strikeouts in high leverage situations. It's frustrating. You would expect a guy of his caliber to, at the very least, get the run home, or I shouldn't say get the run home, but get the runners over, and anything but a double play really in that situation. And unfortunately, he didn't. I understand the frustration. I don't think I'm too upset with him because he's come through so many times before, but I think it's a good thing to bring up that we know that he will have his flaws and have his moments that frustrate you, but it all balances out just like the Force. So, so we head off into Sunday's game, another ESPN game, their second straight time on national TV. Perfect time for them to lay a goose egg. Well, I guess not exactly a goose egg. They did score one. Andrew McCutchen led off the game with a home run. So in all three games of that Braves series, the Phillies scored first in their half of the top half of the first inning. But the final score in that one would see the Braves scoring six and the Phillies not scoring past that leadoff home run. Nola, after that 1 run lead, gives up 4 runs to the Braves. I know one of those runs came off the bat of Freddie Freeman, and also a home run to Dansby Swanson. Nola's final line that game: 4 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, and just 58 pitches. He just, I don't know if word ever came out about what was going on that game. Just gassed or just not on his game in that one. And disappointing to see in general, for a Nola game, but when you're on a national spotlight like that, you tend to hope that your big guns come out there and really really shine. But wasn't meant to be that game. We did see Ranger Suarez and Matt Moore combined for 4 innings pitched with a single earned run scored. Suarez had 3 Ks in his appearance, so good showing by both of them. It's got to point out when these little things happen like that, and they managed to shut down the Braves offense for the rest of the game. So the Phillies dropped 2 out of 3 in that Braves series again. Bob, I can't tell you enough how much I hate when the Phillies go and play in Atlanta, because there just always seems to be at least one wild game like that. You had the Saturday night 12-inning loss. You go back to the previous series, you had the game where Phillies were on the verge of being swept, and then you get the plate with Alec Boehm, who still has not touched home plate as Braves fans, I'll tell you. But the Phillies sneak out with that one. So 2-4 in Atlanta so far this year. So one series left, I think. I don't think, off the top of my head, I don't believe they see the Braves for a little while, unless there's one more series. This is Bank Park before.
I think they go to San Francisco. And
much like I need when I talk about the Phillies going to San Francisco, the Phillies had off on Monday before they started a 3-game series with the Nationals in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. Phillies came away with the win in the opening game, 6-2 the final. In the first inning, Bryce Harper still getting those boos from Nationals fans. I'm assuming he'll get them for the rest of his career. Yeah, because it seemed to hype him up. He hits a monster home run in the first inning, somewhere in the neighborhood of 440 feet. And that would make it 4 straight games that the Phillies scored in their half of the first inning. Rhys Hoskins would have an RBI single in this one. Andrew McCutchen a sacrifice fly. So the Phillies with a 3-0 lead. In the 6th, with Chase Anderson on the mound, Trey Turner hits a leadoff home run in that inning. Later, Kyle Schwarber would collect an RBI single, and things got a little dicey there, but they escaped the inning with a 3-2 lead. In the 8th, Alec Boehm comes up big with an RBI double, and Andrew Knapp comes into the game after JT took a foul ball off the knee. We haven't seen him since, and now he's on the COVID restricted list, so might be a little while. It's not too long, but maybe another day or two before we see JT back with the team.
I saw day-to-day, and I saw the COVID was not because of a positive test, so that's good news.
Yes, very good news. But in the meantime, Andrew Knapp comes in and he collects 2 RBI singles. So it's almost like JT never left with the bat of Andrew Knapp. And that would be it. Phillies, again, win that one 6-2. Sam Coonrod, Brandon Kinsler, Jose Alvarado, Connor Brogdon, and Hector Neris all combined for 4 innings with no runs allowed. Chase Henderson's line in that one: 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs allowed, and 5 strikeouts. So a pretty uneventful win. It's kind of wins that don't cause too much stress, other than maybe in that 6th inning. But nothing too crazy in that one.
Yeah, and I think Bryce, since he's become a Philly, is tied with, I think he's either tied or one ahead of Acuna for most home runs against the Nationals since that time.
Wow. Yeah, and there is something you said, bring it on, about the booze. He does seem to feed off that energy, man. He takes it in stride, and I remember when in 2019 his first series there, he collected like 3 home runs that first series. So
Hmm.
yeah, he definitely seems to be taking it in stride and boosting his own play.
Now, before
So
we get to
that
the next game,
yes.
I just want to ask you a quick question.
Mhm.
So far, we've seen, we saw Chase Anderson in this game. He didn't, yet again, he did not make it out of the sixth. He only pitched 5 innings, 5 plus. Then you had earlier in the Atlanta series, you had Vince Velasquez, who's now replaced Moore in the rotation with 5 and a third. When does the back end of the rotation not giving you at least 6 innings a game gonna hurt you?
Well, right now, all right. So to answer the question, it'll really start to hurt if and when. We've seen the first three guys in Nola, Wheeler, and Eflin. I think they're averaging close to 7 innings a start, but once that average starts coming down, if and when, that's when it's going to start to hurt you. Because right now, with Velasquez and Chase Anderson, they don't go back to back. They're spread out in their days, so you're going to need the bullpen for a few innings in those games, and then you hope that Nola, Wheeler, Eflin can all go pretty deep, and you don't have to use the bullpen as much. But yes, to answer your question, when those top three are struggling and can't get through the sixth and seventh innings, then it really starts to bite you. And again, right now this team is still competing for first place. They're a game and a half behind the Mets as we speak. So if you and the you being leadership, Dave Dombrowski, John Middleton, if you expect this team to continue to compete, you're probably going to need to make a move for somebody who can, last 6 innings and make it so there isn't as much stress in your bullpen.
Yeah, because like the third time the third time through a lineup, Chase seems to struggle mightily.
Yeah.
It was funny watching the broadcast. Kruk and McCarthy talking about how good of a start he's had. And then I believe it was the first pitch
Yes.
to
Yes.
Trey Turner.
Yep. Yep.
That all ended. Well, not ended. They didn't lose that game, obviously, but it was just funny how that worked.
Now, as we're talking here, an interesting idea came to my head. I'm curious what you think about it. If they do decide to trade for someone, sign a free agent, whatever they do, if they do to bring in another starter, how do you feel about the idea of every fifth game almost being guaranteed an Anderson Velasquez, combo where one of them starts and the other one, one of them starts for 4 innings, the other one goes another 3 or 4 innings. Because
Would be
I,
completely fine with that.
yeah, because I think both guys. I don't have the stats to back myself up here, but like you mentioned, both guys when they get to the third time through the lineup, that's when things start to really fall off. So
Mm-hmm.
let both guys, even if both guys are going, 3 plus, you would hope at least 4. That's eating up a good chunk of the game, and then you can let the elite. Well, you can let your best guys come out of the bullpen and close things out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I would
I'm
be all
glad you
for it.
agree.
Yeah, if they could get a starter to replace one of those spots, and then piecemeal, a fifth starter with that, that's a good idea. Even Matt Morrison's going to the bullpen has so far
Mm-hmm.
been better. Yeah, I would be totally down for a Zimmerman. Not Zimmerman. I'm watching replays of the game today of a Velasquez, Anderson. Uh, sort of piecemeal through 5, 6, or 6, hopefully 7 innings, and then get to the back end of your bullpen. I'd be fine with that.
So we go ahead to Wednesday's game. Once again, the Phillies come away with a victory, and it's the first road series victory since 2019. They take this one 5-2. Andrew Knapp, once again, filling in for JT Realmuto, collects an RBI single in the second inning. Zach Wheeler gets the start in this one. He goes 6 innings, 8 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, and I'm going to mention there's a reason I emphasize earned there. We'll talk about that in just a moment. 7 strikeouts, 98 pitches. So the reason I emphasized earned there, so the sixth inning, We saw Starlin Castro with an RBI single. Okay, run scores there. Then Alex Avila comes up and hits a quote unquote RBI triple out to right field. Bob, why don't you explain what happened on this fly ball out there?
Yeah, Alex Avila comes up, and first of all, Wheeler left a pitch a little, you know, in the zone for Avila to hit, and he just lifts one out to right field. And watching the play, it was weird because I thought like, okay, one of these two people have got it, either Herrera or Harper, and then the longer it was in the air, the less they had it, and then it just fell in between them, and then it became a Three Stooges routine where they ran into each other, then got up and then both ran after the ball, and then I believe Harper picked the ball up and threw it back into the infield, but it was just very odd for two normally sure-handed fielders to just not know A, where it was, and B, none of them took charge.
Yeah, well, it just off the bat seemed odd. So I don't have the replay in front of me, but from what I remember, Harper made it look like it was gone. He kind of didn't make a play at it at first. He was running at it as if he expected it to go over, or at the least off the top of the wall. And then they both kind of realized, oh, we might be able to get this. And I do think at that point that's the center fielder's ball to call. To say whether or not he can get it, because both of them were able to get it. So I do think O'Doul probably should have been in charge there and calling it. But yeah, they both messed up, and then it was odd that it landed and then they ran into each other. Just a very strange play, and I guess the reason it's called a triple and not an error is because who do you give the error to? I guess is the only explanation.
Yeah, it didn't go in anybody's glove. It just fell in between them.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the replay now, that was more, in my opinion, more Harper's ball.
Okay.
Like I said, he kind of almost gave up on it. I guess, I think you thought it was either going to be out of the ballpark or at least off the wall. So you try to play off the carom. And then, because you see it at the last second, you see Herrera just like do a last second sprint. And then that's where I think Bryce thinks, oh, Dubois got this. And so he lets up. And then Herrera thinks Harper has it. And so he lets up at the end of his sprint. And it just falls in the middle. And then they run right into each other.
Yeah. Yeah, just very odd overall. And it felt like as soon as that happened, it was like, oh, no. They lost the lead. And then you just thought, to me at least, it felt like all momentum was sucked out of the game. And it was like, well, here we go again, another loss, and then we go into a rubber game on Thursday.
Yeah, it felt like a bad inning because earlier in the inning, Wheeler, whose slider was working very effectively throughout the game, he left the slider up to Zimmerman, who hits the ball perfectly to left center with a double shooter to the right, and then Castro comes up and he gets a nice pitch left in the zone and he scores. Zimmerman, and then Avila comes up. So just the whole inning felt like, all right, here's where the wheels fall off, and we'll probably have to fight back in this one, or might lose this one, and like I said, have to pick up a win in Game 3.
Well, credit to Zach Wheeler because he finishes that inning without allowing another run. So it remains 2-1 into the ninth inning. Brad Hand comes in, the closer for the Nationals, and I think I heard that before he blew a game a couple days before this game, but previous to that he had recorded 24 or 25 straight saves, so pretty efficient, pretty good closer. But in this one he gives up a tying solo home run to Odubel Herrera in that top of the ninth inning. So it's a 2-2 game going into the bottom of the ninth. Jose Alvarado comes in. He would allow a double to Trey Turner, and at that point you're thinking, well, with that speed, any type of hit is gonna score him, and the game is over. They end up giving an intentional walk to Juan Soto, which brings up Ryan Zimmerman, who I remember the stat he had in his career has 15 walk-off hits, and his most recent one had to come against the Phillies. Zimmerman, well, by nature of being in the division, but yeah, he just always seems to be a Philly killer. And at that point, I was like, well, here we go with something crazy. But Zimmerman hits the ball out to short, and it's an inning-ending double play. Once again, sending the Phillies into extras for the second time on this road trip. In the top of the 10th, we see an RBI single by Rhys Hoskins. Nick Maton would get one of his own, as would Andrew Knapp. So, the Phillies score 3 in the top of the 10th. Worth noting, Nick Maton is in the game because Didi had left earlier on with some tightness in his elbow. He didn't play in Thursday's game either. I haven't heard anything about him hitting the DL, so it may just be a little bit of rest for him. You hope to see him back as well as Nick Maton has played. He's cooled off a bit, but I think you would rather see DD in there right now. And then in the bottom of the 10th, Naris is able to close things out pretty cleanly, and the Phillies come away with the win in Game 2, 5-2 win. So that sends us into Thursday's afternoon game with a chance for the Phillies to sweep on the road, which would be the first time. I wish I had the number in front of me, but the first time in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So the first inning started off well. Phillies once again scoring in the first on a double steal, which is not something you see often at all. But Tom McCarthy and John Kruk talked on the podcast about it being something that they believe the Phillies have scouted Patrick Corbin about, where you got guys on first. They had Harper on first and Andrew McCutchen on third. And with Corbin being a left-hander, he's got his back to the runner on third. So Bryce makes the first break towards second base to steal. Corbin throws over. Meantime, Andrew McCutchen is taking off from third. And on a bad throw from Josh Bell to home, McCutchen, with a great slide, is able to evade the tag, and the Phillies score their first run on a steal of home, which is always exciting. It would have been more exciting if the Phillies had scored more, but that would be the lone run of the day. Nationals take this one 5-1. They scored early as well in their half of the first inning. Kyle Schwarber and Josh Bell would both hit 2-run home runs to give them a 4-1 lead. They'd collect another run later. That brings Zach Eflin's closing line of the day to 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 9 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Worth noting, Eniel De Los Santos and Matt Moore both came into the game, both throwing for 1 inning and collecting 1 strikeout. So as you mentioned, Matt Moore has looked pretty okay coming out of the bullpen. Not lights out or anything, but serviceable. And De Los Santos kind of gets some retribution after his ugly game in Atlanta. So after these first 6 games of the road trip against 2 divisional opponents, yes, the Phillies go 3-3, which again is good for being on the road. And they've got 3 more games left on this road trip before they return home. But Bob, any closing thoughts on these 2 divisional series?
Well, I mean, so far early in the year, they're not hurting themselves too bad. They're staying in it. Only a game and a half back, like you said. So I mean, pace yourselves. It's a long season, but so far they are keeping themselves in it, and that's all you really can ask for. As far as Didi, looks like Didi could be out possibly a few days. Does not expect to be put on the IL as of right now, so that's good news. Also, I believe this week was Archie had a 1-2-3 inning in his rehab start. Wait, no more news for him, so looks like we can see him possibly back either in Toronto or when the Phils come back to Philadelphia to play the Marlins next week.
Yeah, that would be a huge boost to the bullpen. You would think at that point we'd probably see De Los Santos go back down to AAA. But we'll see. We'll see how the next few games play out. Right now, as we speak, the Mets are in the first place in the division. They have a game and a half lead over the Phillies. They've won 7 straight. They were 11-13. They are now 18-13, 8-2 in their last 10 games. Phillies are 7-3 in their last 10 games. So they're keeping up. It's going to be. We've said it. It's going to be close all year. Can't count the Braves out, even at 4 games back. Marlins are only 4.5 back. Washington 5 back. So yet again, no one in this division particularly pulling too far ahead. I'm sure we'll see the Mets and Phillies come back down towards these other teams, and these other teams go on streaks of their own as they continue to play each other. And yeah, so it'll be, I would say, fun to watch, but it might be more stressful than anything else.
Yeah, I'm actually very interested to watch this next series, just because I am very intrigued by Toronto. A lot of young talent, some second generation baseball players on the ball club, and we're probably running into Vladdy Jr. At the right time. Over his last 7 games, he's only batting 172 with 1 home run. So let's hope he's cold for at least 3 more days.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. You like to see a guy with a lot of potential like that to be on the downslide. However, they just Blue Jays are coming off a sweep of the Braves. Today they scored 4 in the top of the ninth inning, and it's going to be a challenge. You're going to play away. Granted, it's not in Toronto. The game will be in Dunedin, which the Phillies have a lot of experience in. They played in the Blue Jays Park down there plenty of times.
Yep, not too far. Only a few miles away from where they have spring training.
Yep. So this series, we'll see Vince Velasquez get the start in Game 1, Aaron Nola in Game 2, and then Chase Anderson in Game 3. So 2 out of 3 games are not being started by your top 3. So it could get interesting. We'll when the Phillies played Toronto last year in Buffalo, we had some interesting games as well. I believe that was when the Phillies put out to an early 7-run lead, 8-run lead, and would end up giving it up and losing that game. So I think it'll be a true test to see how well the Phillies stack up, and I'm sure, much to your pleasure, they'll have a DH for these 3 games. So
yes, I'm excited about that. Yeah, I mean, tomorrow will be interesting. Vince Velasquez goes up against Steven Matz, who had a really good April. He was 4-0 in April with a 2.31 ERA. But in May, hasn't been as effective. He has an ERA over 9 in May, has given up a lot of home runs. So hopefully the May version of Matz is what we see tomorrow. No scheduled starter yet announced against Nola on game 2 on the Saturday game. But on Sunday, it's Chase Anderson and Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray, if you watch his last game, which Andrew just said they're coming off a sweep of the Braves. Ray had a 10 strikeout game in his game. So that's going to be fun. Can't wait to watch him strike out 14 Phillies.
Yeah. I think one thing may be an advantage in that first game. The Phillies have seen plenty of Steven Matz in the last few years with his time with the Mets. So I have a feeling that at least that first game is going to be maybe a high scoring affair. Hopefully it lands in the Phillies' favor. And then after that trip to Dunedin, Phillies will come back home to a little bit of a different ballpark. Starting with that Tuesday game, they're off Monday. Starting with that Tuesday game against the Marlins on May 18th, capacity of the stadium jumps up to 50%. And then a little bit down the line later, June 12th. Actually, I take that back. I believe the 50% capacity starts with the series after the Marlins against the Red Sox. So
yeah, I think I forget where I saw it. I think it might start with the last game of the Marlins series, but I know definitely for Boston is where it's going to be at 50%.
A little bit higher capacity. But yes, after Toronto, the Phillies come home to play the Marlins for the first time this season. Looks like that's lining up to be Zach Wheeler, Zach Eflin, and then Vince Velasquez in those 3 games. Yeah, so a couple of tough teams. One because it's a team coming off a sweep of one of your division opponents, and then they always have tough series against the Marlins. So schedule doesn't seem to get much easier for the Phillies. And I don't know if or when it'll ever be easy per se because
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule right now. It's not going to be easy for quite a while. You want another rundown for the next month?
yeah, let's hear them.
All right, so we play Toronto, who's coming off a sweep of the Braves. Then we go home for the Marlins. Like you said, always tough to play the Marlins. Then the Red Sox, always a tough series against the Red Sox. Then we go to Miami, which Andrew loves when we go to Atlanta. I love when we go to Miami because it's never fun. Then a day off, then a quick 2-game series against the Rays. Not
That
going to
in
be
Tampa.
that is in Tampa, and then they play the Reds, which that's not going to be super duper easy either. And the Reds right now are sort of Midland. They're like I think 500 team right now, but that Central is really a division, sort of like the East, where everybody's sort of beating up on each other. Then we come home in June for the Nationals, the Braves, and the Yankees.
Yeah, so no let up at all.
Yes, and then after that, in mid-June, we go to where the pitching is great, and that is the NL West, where every team has a run differential. I think in the either the high 20s to the 40s.
Wow.
And we play the Dodgers, and then guess where we go next, Andrew? After we go to LA,
Is it San Francisco?
it is San Francisco.
Finally.
So the next month does not look very great. It's going to be tough sledding, but I think we'll see what kind of team we have going forward. We're playing teams that are every team we're playing is either near the top of their division or is fighting and is only a few games back. Like I said, the Dodgers run differential is plus 40.
That's
Which is
crazy.
just absurd.
Yeah.
And guess what? They are the third place team in that division.
If only they were playing the AL Central because you've got
Holy moly!
yeah, you got Kansas City, Detroit, and Minnesota all with run differentials. Well, Minnesota minus 15, Kansas City minus 35. They lost 11 in a row, and Detroit minus 64. So
Yes, but the White Sox a plus 66 run differential.
yeah,
Jesus.
White Sox definitely have something cooking out there, and they in Cleveland seem like they're headed to a pretty good fight going the rest of the season. Well, Bob, to close things out for this week's episode, I have a game for you.
I love games.
I have brought up some stats, and I guess if I'm going to have a name for this game, I'll call it "Let's Go Streaking" because it's a couple of guys that are on some streaks, and I think they're all worth mentioning, for their in their own right. So I'll read you off some stats, and I want you to tell me if you, or I want you to take a guess at which Phillies player it is. And I will tell you, there are no tricks. These are all currently
I don't
active.
believe you.
They are all currently active Phillies players. So this first player, this is going back to May 5th. So that was around the middle of the Milwaukee series. This person is hitting .357 with a .424 on base percentage, striking out just 15% of the time. They have collected 4 walks and 5 RBIs in these 8 games. Bob, who is this player?
And they played in all 8 games.
Yes.
You know what? I'm gonna take a guess here because he has been walking more, at least in my recollection. He has been walking more, which is good. It's something that he needs to do. I'm gonna say that is Rhys Hoskins.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. That was Odubel Herrera. Herrera has, he's come up big in these games. We both have talked about, our feelings about Odubel Herrera the person. Odubel Herrera the player has been performing well these last like I said, 8 games for the Phillies, and coming up big in a couple situations. So perhaps they have found the center fielder that they've needed to to fill that void where they were getting no production. I know, I agree with the but the I do think the stats are worth mentioning.
Yeah, I guess I just blocked Odubel out of my memory.
Rightfully so. All right, so this next player, hint hint, it is a pitcher. In their last 23 innings pitched, they have an ERA of over 5. They are striking out just under 10 players per game, walking 2, and have given up 4 home runs and 5 walks. Any guesses as to who this player is? By the way, this is going back to April 24th. That was the series in Colorado.
Okay. So you said the ERA is where?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said that very out of order. Let me let you know again. 23 innings pitched. In that time, 25 strikeouts to 5 walks. An ERA of just over 5 at 5.09. 13 runs allowed, 20 hits allowed.
Now, I think, just a guess, I think this person has had more road starts than home starts in that period. And has been striking out a lot of batters in his starts. I'm going to say those are Aaron Nola's numbers.
You've got one. You are 1 for 2. Yes, in the 4 starts since his complete game shutout of the St. Louis Cardinals, Nola, he had 1 start against Milwaukee where he went 6, allowed 1 earned run. But we've got the Colorado game, 7 innings, 4 earned runs. Against St. Louis, in St. Louis, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, and then that Atlanta game where he went just 4 innings, with allowing 5 earned runs. So, not exactly what you want to see out of your ace. Especially in 4 starts there. But again, just worth noting a trend for these guys, and going to Toronto and then coming home after that, perhaps he can work himself out of this funk. And maybe not having to bat will help him in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, going through his career here, he's not a great pitcher away from the ballpark. His last great year away from Citizens Bank Park was in 2018, where he had an ERA just slightly higher than his home ERA. His home ERA was 2.34, and his away ERA is 2.41. After that, he's had an ERA in the 5s on the road in 2019. Last year, it was 4.26 on the road, and right now it's in the 6s. So for your quote-unquote ace to have really bad road numbers is not great.
Agreed. So this next player, these stats are going back to April 28th. This is the series when the Phillies were in St. Louis. This person is hitting This Purdon is hitting 315 with a 406 on base percentage. By the way, these numbers include today's game. They are striking out 25% of the time. They have walked 7 times, collected 10 RBIs, 4 home runs. Bob, who is this person?
Ooh. And this is going back to what point in the year?
When the Phillies were in St. Louis.
Phillies were in St.
So
Louis.
this is 15 games, including today.
And what is the average in that time period?
315 average with a 406 on base percentage.
406 on base percentage, 315 average. I think this may be a couple people. I think I'm going to go with Nick Maton.
Incorrect on this one. This was Andrew McCutchen.
Really?
Yeah, going 1 for 3 today with a walk. So yeah, his numbers. He's
That's
the
really
reason.
good.
Yeah, the reason I picked this specific game. This is the game. Remember after Colorado, he sat for a couple games.
Mm-hmm.
So April 28th when he returned to the lineup, batting 5th, and since then, yes, hitting 315, 406 on base, striking out 25% of the time. But yeah, the big thing, 3 home runs. 4 home runs in that time, and collecting 10 RBIs. So much
That's
more
really
of
good.
much more of the leadoff hitter you want to see,
Yeah,
and performing well.
yeah. Hopefully, his numbers, keep in that area and bring his overall average up. I know last podcast we talked about, and also on the broadcast, McCarthy and Clark talked about in the Brewer series how he's looked like he had his legs back under him.
Mhm.
He had a few home runs in that series. Um, so yeah, I'm actually happy that I'm wrong in that one because I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah, well, and that's I think he was actually the reason I wanted to do this game because I knew that his last few games have been much better and that his numbers have been improving. So that kind of was why that was the catalyst for this game, and yeah, just gives you an idea of how well he's been playing lately. So two more players here for you, Bob. This particular person, since the 27th of April. So again, we're going back to the
Mickey
uh,
Morandini.
back to the series in St. Louis. This person has 7 1/3 innings pitched. They've allowed 7 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, an ERA of 0. No runs allowed in this time. Bob, who is this player?
Okay, this is going to be tough. Can I get a hint of whether he's either a bullpen guy or a starter?
Uh, well, yeah. So going back to St. Louis, just 7 1/3 innings pitched over 7 appearances. So yes, this is a bullpen player.
Um, this bullpen player. I am going to guess because at least in uh, through what I've been watching lately, he's been better. I'm going to say this is the return of the good Connor Brogdon.
I almost chose him, but he had a couple starts in there that made the numbers not so hot. This is Sam Kudrod. Sam
Oh,
Kudrod.
there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. We've talked about him previously on how well he's performed. And yeah, since that St. Louis series has not allowed a run, um, has come in several high leverage situations for the Phillies and striking out a good number of guys. And yeah, has really performed well. And I thought it was worth recognizing as um, he's becoming a reliable arm out of the bullpen.
Yeah, we talked about him last week also,
Mhm.
and about him possibly. You asked if I see him as a long term setup man, or at least a setup man for the next couple years, in the rest of this season. Yeah, I said yes, and I stand by that. He's been sort of a uh, pleasant surprise out of that pen.
Absolutely. So one more player here, and we're looking back to the start of the Milwaukee series. So this is 10 games overall for this player. They have played in all 10 games, including today. They are hitting 175 in those 10 games with a 200 on base percentage, striking out 35% of the time, just 1 walk, 1 home run, and 5 RBIs. Any guesses as to who this is?
Ooh. Um, you know what? I'm gonna go. Ooh, I'm gonna go with a guy who I was hoping for better things, and it's still young in the season, and he's still pretty young as well. I'm gonna go with our third baseman Alec Bohm in this one.
I had a feeling that's where you're going, and I have a feeling you are correct. That is Alec Boehm's stats in the last 10 games. Yeah, I mean, I really could have taken his season overall because he has not played particularly well. But you make a great point. Young player, and that's kind of why I wanted to spotlight him because it is somebody who I think certainly has the capability to turn things around. Girardi talked about him after the game and about how they're going to have to work with him and figure out what's causing this issue. In the field at least he still seems to have a good head on his shoulders and he's making great
Mhm.
plays.
Yeah, he had the weird
Um,
play where the ball, got caught in his mitt and he couldn't make the play.
yeah, yeah.
But there's been glimpses, I would say, over the last few games. Um, when he's hitting the opposite way, that's the good Alec Bohm. Which is why I really liked him. He's a guy who can hit to all fields, what he's doing really well. Um, so yeah, I don't know if it's pressing too much. I don't know if it's just not recognizing the pitches as well, and or pitchers getting more used to him. But
Yeah, and some of it does. He seems to be getting in his own head a little bit, particularly in these last two games against the Nationals. I feel like I've noticed it. He struck out 3 times in that Wednesday night game. Struck out, I believe, twice in today's game, and there were a couple times where you saw him getting super frustrated and kind of cursing under his breath and just looking out of sorts. So yeah, you hope that there's enough guys, like Bryce Harper, like JT Realmuto, some of these veteran players that can hopefully get in his head and help him get right and possibly back onto the same numbers he was putting up last year. Again, very young and could easily turn things around. So that will do it for the game today, Bob. You went a solid 2 for 5. That's 400, and that would put you in the Hall of Fame. So
there we go.
Congratulations to you. And I think that'll do it for the podcast as well. Bob, any closing thoughts here as we wind down?
You know what? It's early in the season. I keep saying that, but it's still midway. There is a tough test ahead of us. I think I'm on the team. But there's a tough stretch we went over for all the next months. And I think this is where we're really going to see where this team stands as far as future playoff contention.
Yeah. Yep. Completely agreed. It's going to be a tough series in Toronto, and then you invite the Marlins into your home park and later next week. So,
but I'm super excited to see more fans.
Yeah,
and I'm super excited to hear more from Andrew as he goes to the ballpark with more crowds and see how your experience is with actual people in the seats.
Yeah, well, I'll be there for the second game in the Red Sox series, so I'll get an idea of the crowd there, and I believe they'll be opening up all season or all single game tickets on the 25th. So by then, I will probably have the rest of my season tickets. So we'll see. We'll see how they handle the 100% capacity. I imagine, man, that weekend series against the Yankees, 100% capacity, and the Yankees coming to town, that stadium will be packed for sure.
Yeah.
So will be a sight to see and a return to normalcy. So thank you, everybody who is listening in and interacting with our social media. It is very much appreciated. And until next week, stay cool and go Phillies.